Hello everyone and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host Charles. Along with me as always my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloth. And today we are here to do what we do every single week, which is pitch a brand new televisual series for you all to imagine together. And we're going to imagine it too, but we're going to imagine it first, and then you guys are going to imagine it again later, which is exciting. So, as is tradition, it's Jake's turn to pick. To pitch.
To pitch.
So
yeah. To pick between your two ideas.
I only have. Actually, I feel bad because I only have one. Fully fledged idea. I've decided I'm not gonna pitch that Batman show I talked about.
Your Batman fan fiction.
Yeah, I'm deciding that. I mean, I feel like all of our shows that we have that are based on intellectual properties are fan fiction, so who cares? But I just want to leave everyone in the dark on that because I think it's actually a pretty solid idea.
I don't know. I think it's an independent idea if you come up with your own characters.
Well, yeah, but
and you have a whole, thing within it.
But that's not what we did for Hellboy.
I guess they would technically be fan fiction because it's not approved by the studio or anything, right?
Yeah. We're fan fiction.
What's the difference between fan fiction and a fan film?
One of them is a film, usually behind pictures moving with people doing in costumes and stuff, and the other one is just.
But isn't a fan film just fan fiction?
Yes, but it's better because it's
Damn.
film. And by the way, most fan films are terrible. I like fan films on YouTube and stuff. It's all right, we're going to have Darth Vader and Batman fist fight or whatever. I think it's fun, but they're usually bad. If you go down the rabbit hole of Batman fan films, it is something that never ends. It's kind of crazy, if I'm being 100% honest with you. Also, did you know Barry Cohen, what's his name? The guy who is the Joker at the end of The Batman?
Yeah.
That guy, he was actually in a Batman fan film and he played Nightwing, which I think is very interesting. And then he was in the best Marvel movie, Eternals.
The Batman?
The Batman is the best Marvel movie.
I agree.
Isn't it funny that the Batman is better than all of the Marvel movies? And the Batman's...
I don't think it is.
What Marvel movie is it worse than?
I think it's definitely worse than the duo, Infinity War and Endgame. Because those are probably two of the best movies together. They're amazing. I mean, hard to beat that.
There's a lot of fat in those movies that I feel like you could cut. And there's a lot of fat in the Batman that you could cut. Batman. But I'm
I after sitting with it for a while, I don't think the Batman is as good as I initially.
I mean, I've watched it twice since it came out, and I enjoyed it thoroughly both times.
Are we a Batman podcast?
No, because Kevin Smith already does a Batman podcast, and we're not as good as Kevin Smith.
So what are we then?
We're a Very Reasonable Pilots podcast in which we talk about pilots, TV show pilots. And so the pilot I have today is What If Batman, but it was Jake Gloth, and he was annoyed at his as podcast co-host.
And he beat the shit out of them.
That would be...
And they'd move on with their lives.
Yeah, and then they move on, and they talk about this bleak, surreal Western TV show that I have all written out, right?
Oh, so bleak, surreal Western TV show. Is that the title?
It's yeah. Well,
You don't have a title, do you?
My title is going to be West of Strange.
West of Strange? I like that. That's good.
Yeah, West of Strange. So it's
West of Strange.
I thought of that while in bed today. Because I was trying to come up with something cool, and I was my first thought was Weird West, but then I was wait, that's a video game. And then I was West of, and then the first thing I thought of was Loathing, and I was oh wait, that's another video game. So West of Strange, I think, is a good title, because it's not a very... I'm imagining the series as being short, animated episodes. Maybe each episode is 11 minutes, 10 minutes long, about this character who he receives almost no characterization whatsoever. His name is... He's referred to as Killer, and that's how everyone talks to him. It's just hey, Killer. Whatever. and he is a nearly silent, outlaw type. He's got a quick gun, he's kind of dressed like Clint Eastwood in the Good, the Bad, the Ugly. He's got the poncho and everything and the hat, but his face is always kind of like shrouded in darkness. And this is a sort of, it's like the Wild West as seen through Salvador Dali's eyes, if that makes sense. Like, everything is very odd and elongated and weird, but also it's just the Wild West. Like, there's just people, there's towns, there's, civilization. And so this is a kind of series that I think should be almost entirely silent. Like, that there should be, some dialogue and definitely, like, music. I think the music for this show will be one of the defining traits of it, because I want it to be weird and discordant and have, like, use, like, out-of-tune pianos don't get out of tune, but, out-of-tune, like, string instruments and, like...
Pianos do get out of tune.
Do they? Well, then out-of-tune pianos and out of, weird, like, micro...
Like wonky-tonk pianos, like they have in, like, the Old West? Like, is that what you're looking for, that kind of sound?
That kind of sound, but, like, if David Lynch got his hands on it, So, like, long, old, creepy, keys. Like, I want the music to be kind of, like almost, like a 1980s style horror, slow build horror, But the show is the sort of just dark, bleak show. And it's surreal. And I'm gonna read you some episode descriptions, because I think that's really where the show will, like, kind of... No pilot, because this isn't a kind of show that needs a pilot. Like, you can take the...
Well, the first episode you read beats the pilot.
Yeah,
the first episode's the pilot.
You can take the first episode as being the pilot, but it's more, there's no story that develops throughout the show. So the first episode is called Wayward Pup, and it starts with our character, Killer. He's walking through, the bleak desert. And you know how most...
Can I interrupt you for a second? I think it's the first time on this podcast that we've ever named an episode, so I just want to applaud you real quick.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Oh, metal and a bouquet of flowers. This is so nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I could do that.
Make sure to refrigerate the cake.
I will, don't worry.
Okay.
Yes, refrigerate the cake and the ice cream that you got me.
Yep. Well, it's inside the cake.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's ice cream cake.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Should have probably figured that out from looking at it.
What? My brain ain't so good, but I do have an episode title, Wayward Pup. And it's about Killer. He finds a puppy, and he has to deliver this puppy back to its pack. That's just the entire episode, And so most of this series and this episode will be just the main character, Killer, walking across the desert, meeting and seeing different weird sights, right? And you know how most deserts in TV shows, they're color graded like an orange or a yellow, right?
Yeah.
I want this desert to be more of like a cross between a gray and a navy blue almost. Like it's got a stark, blue-ish color grading to it, and that's how every piece of the episode of the show is shown to us. So when there are different colors, it's a lot, they pop a lot more. So this episode will be mainly silent, and it'll consist of Killer. He's walking across the desert, just minding his own business. Maybe we see like a rattlesnake eat, like one of those weird like desert rats that exist that have the really long tails that are ploofy at the top.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think would be cool for this show is if we introduce animals to this like Wild West that were not in the Wild West. Not fictional animals, but like Australian animals.
Okay. Kangaroos.
Yeah, they could see a kangaroo, but then also see,
Wild bears.
something else that is like, it's only in America. So we only have...
Saltwater crocodiles.
Yeah, saltwater crocodile.
Terrified of this.
Only in
Those
America.
giant crabs that look like the spiders in Skyrim.
Yeah. Those, like the coconut lobsters? Oh, those coconut lobsters.
I don't know. They're just giant crabs. It might be coconut lobsters. But they're huge.
Those coconut lobsters freak the shit out of me. They're like as big as a trash can. Everybody thinks they ate Amelia Earhart. That's a theory. That she got stranded on an island somewhere and
then got eaten by them.
and starved to death, and then got like
or just murdered by locals or whatever, who were like, she just dropped in some sort of weird thing.
Yeah.
It's just, probably should murder her just to be safe.
When I was a kid, people
Or she
were like,
crashed.
or she crashed into the ocean, or she got abducted by aliens, or she just decided, I'm gonna move to somewhere else and change my name.
Maybe she landed and was like, this place is way better. Let me just stay here.
Yeah.
It's warm all the time. I don't have to pay money for anything. I don't have to work.
Nobody knows my name. It's great. Yeah, but this episode will consist of, Killer, he's walking across the desert, and he, sees a puppy in a bear trap. And his first, thought, or not a bear trap, but, like an animal trap, because they didn't have bears in the desert. His first thought is leave it. His second thought is when he hears its whining, it's like, fine. He's not saying any of this, but we're expressing these, emotions through his character design. Because I think the part of the show that'll be most integral to making it work is having like a strong, like artistic style to it. Like making sure that there is a very, very much the style is the substance in a lot of ways. So making sure your animation style is accurate to what we're trying to get across. But he saves the puppy. Puppy's lost. He can tell that obviously this dog got left behind by its pack because it got trapped, and he can see the tracks of the pack. And so he decides, I got nothing better to do. So he takes the dog, says, come on. It chases behind him, and they start walking. And the episode mainly consists of him walking with the dog, and the dog falls face first into a pile of mud, and he picks it up by its tail, and it looks at him and starts licking his face and gets mud everywhere. And then they're walking by a canyon, and they just like look out, and there's like these weird like kind of alien celestial looking like jellyfish that are just floating by. And the puppy is like amazed, and we could see the reflection of it in its eyes as it's like watching this happen. And Killer's just standing there looking at the puppy, looking up at the jellyfish. And then he keeps walking, and the puppy sits back for a second as he walks out of frame. Puppy looks back at the jellyfish and then runs after him. We can have something where it's like a rattlesnake comes up while they're camping, and they've like caught a rabbit, and they are sharing the rabbit meat, and the puppy's like snuggling up to him because it's a baby and it's looking for warmth. And like a rattlesnake comes up as the puppy like falls asleep and begins like whispering things to Killer, and just like kind of telling him things about like his past and stuff that the snake shouldn't know. And just as it's like about to get to somewhere interesting that'll like tell us about the character, he just blows it out of the like sky, or not out of the sky, off the ground.
It was flying?
Yeah, it was flying. He like shoots it and blows its brains out, And so most of it is just that sort of thing. And he's walking, he's getting water, and maybe there's some sort of weird bug that tries to like pick up the puppy and fly away, and Killer's got to grab the bug by the back or by the legs and slam it into a wall, and it like explodes into like a weird orange goo, right? Mm-hmm. And then you cut to the puppy licking up the orange goo, and it's like, ugh, but dogs do that gross kind of shit. Yeah. And then he eventually finds the pack. He delivers the puppy to the pack, and it's like, I wonder what a dog puppy was doing out all this way. oh, turns out this is a wolf puppy. This is a wolf pack, not a wild dog pack. And so there's a little bit of a standoff as the alpha male wolf comes up to Killer and starts growling at him. And Killer gets down at one knee and looks him right in the eye. And the dog kind of senses what's happening, and the puppy runs in between his legs, and the alpha male just makes eye contact with him, puts his teeth away and just turns and walks. And the puppy joins his pack and takes one last look at Killer, and Killer looks at him, and then puppy just goes. And the Killer he just sets up another camp that same night in the same in the desert, and we watch as the celestial jellyfish float over his head and, go past him as he, falls off to sleep. So that's the first episode. That's the pilot. The rest of the episodes I have are a little bit more talkative, if that makes sense. A little bit more, what do you call it? Plot driven. That one was that's kind of the most basic one. So our next one is
probably shouldn't be the pilot though.
But I think it leads. It gives the most of a vibe. It tells you what the series is gonna feel like.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's what you want in a pilot. People need plot in a pilot.
Yeah, but people also like cute puppies. But if you want to,
I don't know if that's gonna work out, man.
If you wanted to do a plot-driven one, we have two. We have Hardly Sober, which is Killer finds himself walking into a town just as this local drunk is being, thrown out of the bar. And everybody's, pissed off at him for some reason. And he's, because he's a fucking drunk asshole. And he's, pissing and shitting all over the place. That's not what drunk people do. They piss and vomit. They don't usually shit all over the place. And so he's wakes up on the side of in the street, covered in his own vomit, and he goes up and pesters Killer, and he's like, please, he starts a conversation with him, because how drunk people do that.
I just go up to you like, hey pal.
Well, they'll just start talking to you like they can, they know you, and it's but Killer is very much the kind of person who'll just let you talk. And I don't think he's a completely silent person, but I think he's very much a kind of person that is not willing to conversate for he doesn't say sentences that are longer than 4 words. And so the drunk decides that it is his job to find a local girl who has gone missing. And so he decides that the way he should get back in everybody's good graces is by finding this girl. So he enlists Killer to help him find this girl in exchange for, I don't know, we can think of something like a cool plant or something. Killer's motivations are kind of secondary. He's just kind of there for everybody else. He's not really a character as much as he is a camera. But, his motivations are whatever. And so they, Killer and this drunk, they get supplies. The drunk, kind of cleans himself off. Killer gets a drink. Maybe he impresses the local townsfolk with his, quick shooting. He does a little show where he fires. Somebody throws up 6 bottles and then he hits all 6 of them before they hit the ground. Something like that. And then just as they're going to go, the drunk discloses that they actually know exactly where the local girl is, but she's been kidnapped by an ogre. Right? You wouldn't expect ogres in this series.
No.
So it's...
You said no mythical creatures.
I mean, no, there's fucking weird celestial jellyfish and snakes that talk to you.
Oh,
why aren't there ogres, baby?
I thought, that was just in his head, maybe. I don't know. But you said no mythical creatures earlier.
Well, then I lied. I'm sorry. But yeah, he goes and he finds this ogre. They go on like a 3-day long journey on horseback, and they eventually get to this canyon, and it's like that sort of, you know, those Native American cities that are built into the sides of mountains, or like on
Mesa Verde.
Yeah, that
Or is it? Is that no? That's on Mesa, but I don't remember.
yeah. But you know the ones, the stone cities. It's like that, but it's just one guy, and he's been like working away for his entire life to build this like side of the mountain mansion. And they get there, they, you know, wander in. There's a big scuffle at first, and then the drunk and the ogre start getting into a fist fight. The ogre throws the drunk at Killer. Killer gets up, points his gun at the ogre. The ogre stops. He says, "Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I'm sorry about what they told you, but I promise I didn't do it." And the drunk explains that they're here for, you know, Mary Sue. She went messing around these parts about 2 months ago.
Mary Sue.
I didn't come up with a name until just now, but Mary Sue, whatever. Sue Maryson.
I feel you can't ever marry Sue unless it's a joke.
Yeah, that's right. Let's call her Sue Maryson. No,
That's
how about
just as bad.
How about
Therese Vander Welt?
Yeah, let's just say Teresa. Teresa went missing around here 6 months ago, and a couple weeks ago, you know, the local crier told us all about screaming that had come from your house. So what the hell's what's the deal, man? And the ogre looks like scared, and he's not really that much of an ogre. He's mostly just a tall guy who's got a little bit of facial deformity, and that's it. He's not an ogre. He's not green. He doesn't look like Shrek. He's just a guy. And you get kind of the sense that he's not actually an ogre. He's just some dude that looked a little bit different, and so people kicked him out, like ostracized him. So he moved out and, you know, began building this like stone mansion sort of situation. And just as like it looks like Killer's about to put the ogre guy down, Teresa walks down from the stairs and, you know, explains to Killer and the drunk that she's fallen in love with this ogre man. And he may not be the brightest bulb in the world, and he may not be the prettiest, but he loves more than anyone else I've ever met, and he has such passion for what he loves that I can't leave. You know, I love him, and he loves me, and we're happy here, you know. And the drunk says, "I don't give a shit." Basically,
we got a classic Beauty and the Beast story, and he's what's his name?
He's Gaston. Yeah, he's like, "I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. Like, I don't care about your love or whatever. I'm trying to get back into the town's good graces." So he he goes up to smack the ogre, knock him down, and take the girl. You know, he's got her by the wrist. And just as it looks like he's about to go down, you hear a gunshot. He looks back, you know, the drunk lets go of the girl. He lets go of Teresa. He drops the mallet that he was going to hit the guy with. And he just, you know, he starts bleeding because the bullet went all the way through him. And he's just got the fucking hole in his chest. And he looks down and he falls back. And Killer looks up at the two of them. And he tips his hat. And he gets back and he goes to the horses. He smacks both of them on the behind and sends them back to town. And then he takes the thing out of...
He takes one?
No, because I don't...
Why would he just get rid of his own horse?
I don't think Killer likes horses. He's a walker. You know?
A walker? It seems highly impractical.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, but he likes walking. So maybe he takes, like, the flower pendant or whatever he was doing this for out of the drunk's jacket pocket, puts it in his own, and then walks out into the sunset. Yeah, so those are two of the episode ideas I have, and I'm gonna leave you off with one more that I think is probably the most wholesome episode. Okay. And it is titled Culture Shock. And it follows a Chinese family who had just recently immigrated to the United States, and they moved out.
Is this in the United States?
I mean,
The show?
it is, but is it?
You probably want to just not mention the United States.
I mean,
right?
I'm not.
That's the idea.
I'm not gonna.
Not mention it's any country or anything.
Well, I am going to. I'm not like planning on having a big sign or like anyone say "Welcome to the USA." I'm just gonna have like a Chinese family silently, like they get off the boat. They look like, excited to start their new lives. They get on a train. The train takes them out into the middle of nowhere, and this is all happening silently. The father buys this plot of land from this greedy landlord, and begins his farm.
Damn, is this gonna be? Oh God, why did I even say this if I can't remember the name of the movie?
I don't know.
The movie, it almost won an Oscar. It won. It's about the family on the farm. Oh my God!
We Bought a Zoo
No,
with
it's a
Matt
great
Damon.
movie.
The epilogue of
Steven Yeun's in
Red
it.
Dead Redemption 2. You remember that? But yeah, so comes along, and then a year passes. Like that's how we end with that.
Minari.
Oh, yeah.
But they're Chinese.
Yeah.
That's what I was going for.
We end
I don't know if you saw
with
it. Great movie, by the way.
I didn't see it, but it's good to know that you remembered the name of it, and it sounds cool.
It is good.
But we see them, smiling, looking at their plot of land, and then we cut to, and that's the last we see of them for a while, and we see Killer, cut to Killer. It's a year later. It's a year on. We don't say that, but you can assume from the family he comes upon. So he's just walking, and he comes upon this like ramshackle, shack, right? That's being attacked by these sort of
Don't write that in the script. Ramshackle shack.
yeah.
Ramshackle shack.
That's why I said ramshackle shack.
I know. I was making fun of you.
I know. But it's like this like small shack with like this dying farm behind it, and there are goons outside who are like pestering the family inside. So Killer comes in, he shoots one of them, he punches the other, and he kicks the third one out. And the two are alive, get their buddy, and they put him on his horse, and they ride back to town. And the Chinese man does not speak English, and so he sort of using like drawings and hand motions is able to explain to Killer that he needs to pay back the loan he took out for this, or pay back the pay his rent basically for this plot of land, but he is having a real hard time because nobody's he just needs manpower. He needs another person. And so I think that would be, and his son and daughter and wife, are his children are too small, and his wife is taking care of the children, so they can't really help very much. And so the thing I like the most about this episode is that both characters don't talk to each other, because Killer doesn't like talking, and the Chinese guy does not speak any English. So maybe he'll say a few things in Mandarin every once in a while. But yeah, and then, so I think that most of the episode is Killer helping this family get their, whole life together. He helps the father rebuild the cabin, like helps him get it together, helps him, I don't think he knows very much about plants, but he probably can take him to someone who does. Like, take him into town and takes him to the apothecary or whatever they have, for somebody to help him with the plants. And they like building the house together, and it's like a whole family thing. And Killer kind of becomes like a secondary member of this family. He eats dinner with them, wakes up with them, that sort of thing. So it's like,
It's cute.
I think, yeah, it's meant to be. It's like this cute little thing, this cute little like just small story of Killer becoming
Walks the kids to school.
Yeah, or like he teaches the kids how to shoot. That's something that I could see definitely. And then at the end of it, the landlord shows up. He rocks up and he's got like 20 guys, right? Or like, not 20 guys, he's got like 5 guys. And so, and the Chinese family still hasn't gotten enough money to pay it back. So the landlord pulls up, all his guys are like ready to go, and it's like, if you don't come out with, you know, $1,000 in cash in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna burn your house down, kill your family, all right? And it's basically just, I want to do this thing, so I'm gonna do it. And so Killer walks out with the father, and, you know, the Chinese father isn't sure what he's gonna do, but he's like, you know, I have to go out and talk to him. And so goes out, talks to him, he's about to say something, but just as he does, Killer takes $1,000 cold cash and like puts it in the man's hand, right? And everyone is shocked. Everyone's like, what the... But just as he does that, you know, Killer does that, and then he looks, like, makes eye contact with the landlord, and then tells him to get out, like, basically. He, like, motions with his head, like, go. And then the landlord's, like, blustering and, you know, something like that, and the Chinese father is just, like, so, you know, happy and everything, and he starts, like, thanking the guy profusely, and then maybe one of the goons that the landlord has with him says something like racist or something. I haven't figured that out yet. And then we see, you know, in a flash, in a second, Killer has killed all 5 of the men, and on all 5 of the men on horses. And he puts a gun up to the landlord's head, and he pulls the trigger real slow, you know, like making eye contact with him the whole time. And as he does this, he looks back and he sees that the children that he's bonded with saw. They watched him do that. And he looks down despondent, and he puts his gun away, and he walks. He just leaves.
Okay, can I make one suggestion?
Yeah.
Because I love that, but maybe so he doesn't murder these people in front of the kids, maybe he shoots the guns out of their hands or something simpler.
But I kind of want it to be like he's like...
And also, like, murdering, like, 5 people because of a slur is really not justifiable.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, the audience won't be like, well, that made sense. The audience will be like, I don't see really how he did that.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking, how could I get them to attack him anyway? But, you know, whatever. I think you're right. Maybe he just, like, fires the gun, like, enough that it scares the horses and they start running away. And the landlord is, like, terrified. And without his goons, he, you know, drops the $1,000 and just starts running. And then Killer holsters his gun, picks up the $1,000, puts it in the man's hand, and then walks away. You know, puts it in the Chinese man's hand, and then he, you know, wanders off into the desert again. Yeah, that's what my show is. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a subscribe, a follow. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your whole dang crew about it. Whole dang crew. God, what am I, 80? And please get home safe. Tell everyone that you know how you feel about them, even if it's not good. But if it is good, do tell them that too. All right. Goodbye.